Okay, my friend. Imagine you're sitting across from someone who seems incredibly convincing. They're saying all the right things, nodding along, looking you straight in the eye. But right then, the stoic inside you needs to switch into high alert. Because there are certain questions that, if asked by the other person, should make you pause. They're like warning signs, red flags that signal, be careful, you might be dealing with someone you can't trust. We'll talk about 5 such questions, using the wisdom of Stoicism, not as a rigid set of rules, but as a tool for discernment, to see things as they truly are, free from illusions and self-deception.
The first question that should raise an eyebrow goes something like this. You do believe me, right? Or another version, are you doubting my word? Stop right there. Why is this person demanding your trust instead of earning it? Genuine sincerity doesn't need constant validation. It shows up in actions, in the consistency between words and deeds. Imagine someone promising you the moon and stars, but then repeatedly asking, "You do believe I'll do it, don't you?" It's like that story about the neighbor who always borrowed money, swearing he'd pay it back any day now, and then got offended if you asked for a specific date. An honest promise doesn't need such pressure. A Stoic knows trust isn't something you can demand. It's built gradually on a foundation of proven facts, not emotional pleas. If someone insists on your trust, it often means they have something to hide, and they're trying to compensate for a lack of real evidence by pressuring your emotions. Think about it. When you buy something valuable, the salesperson doesn't beg you to take their word for it. They show you certificates, warranties, customer reviews. They provide facts. A liar, however, usually avoids facts. They try to create an emotional connection so you'll stop thinking critically. "You're my friend, don't you trust me?" That's a classic. It's an attempt to use personal relationships as a shield against uncomfortable questions. A Stoic remembers, friendship is based on mutual respect and honesty, not blind faith. Checking information isn't a lack of trust, it's common sense. If someone is truly sincere, they'll welcome your careful attention because it will only strengthen your trust when they can back up their words. But if they resist, get angry, or take offense, that's a different story entirely. True belief comes from conviction, not from coercion. If someone pressures you to believe them, that's a signal. They're trying to avoid scrutiny of their words. Stay on guard. Such questions are often an emotional hook. Liars know well that most people don't want to appear distrustful or rude. They exploit this human trait to get you to agree with their words without proper verification. They create a situation where you have 2 bad choices. Either believe them at their word and potentially be deceived, or express doubt and risk appearing impolite or offending them. Stoicism teaches us to detach from such emotional traps. Our goal isn't to be pleasant or convenient for everyone, but to be rational and virtuous. And rationality demands a check of the facts. Remember, whoever forces you to believe them likely doesn't deserve your trust. This isn't paranoia, it's simple logic. If there's nothing to hide, there's no need to compel belief.
The second question that gives away a liar sounds like manipulation. Are you saying I'm lying? Or are you implying I'm incompetent? This is a classic tactic of shifting responsibility. Instead of answering directly, the person tries to make you feel guilty, to put you on the defensive. Let's say you ask a business partner a clarifying question about figures in a report, and instead of a straightforward answer, they attack. "Are you suggesting I can't do basic math?" This immediately shifts the conversation from facts to personal accusations. A Stoic understands that this move is defensive. When compelling arguments are lacking, emotional pressure takes over. Epictetus said, "You cannot trust those who try to convince you of their righteousness by fear rather than by reason." This question is an attempt to avoid a direct answer, to evade an uncomfortable truth, by putting you in the role of the accuser. It's not a dialogue, it's a trick. Imagine you're discussing a project with a colleague and you notice a small inconsistency in their plan. Instead of calmly explaining or correcting it, they exclaim, "Are you questioning my professionalism?" This isn't just a question, it's an attack. The goal of such an attack is to make you back down, to feel awkward for daring to point out a flaw. A truly professional, honest person would be grateful for the attention, as it helps avoid problems. But someone who's hiding the truth will try to defend themselves at all costs, even if it means attacking your reputation or intentions. Stoics teach us to remain calm and rational in the face of such manipulations. Don't fall for the provocation. Bring the conversation back to the facts. "I'm not questioning your professionalism, I just want to understand this point." That's your response. Remember that lying is often accompanied by aggression or offense, as the liar has nothing to hide behind except an attack on their opponent. This is a sign of weakness, not strength. Such questions are a smokescreen. They divert attention from the core issue by turning it into an emotional conflict. The liar hopes that you, fearing confrontation or accusations of ill will back down and stop asking inconvenient questions. This is especially common in high-stakes situations, for example in business negotiations or when discussing serious personal matters. The Stoic principle of objectivity is particularly crucial here. Don't let someone else's emotions or attempts at manipulation distort your perception of the facts. You have every right to ask questions and seek the truth, and if someone tries to penalize you for it, it only confirms their dishonest intentions. Remember, defensiveness is often aggressive when there's insufficient justification. Your calm persistence in seeking the truth is your strength.
The third unsettling question: you won't tell anyone about this, right? Or, this is our little secret, agreed? Again, this is an attempt to trap you within their web of deceit. Genuine intentions don't need such conspiracy. If information is truly valuable or sensitive, it's either not disclosed at all, or it's shared with those who have a right to know, without imposing secret obligations. Imagine a scenario where a new acquaintance tells you, in strict confidence, about some incredible investment project, but then absolutely forbids you from discussing it with anyone else, even financial advisors. The question immediately arises: why? What are they afraid of? The truth? Exposure? Seneca taught, "A life without deception needs no secrecy." If you're asked to keep a secret that involves something questionable or unethical, know this: you become an accomplice, even if you just stay silent. This isn't trust, it's an attempt to use you. Think about a situation where you're asked to hide information that could harm others, or that is inherently dishonest. For instance, a colleague at work asks you not to tell the boss about their mistake, coaxing, "You don't want to get them in trouble, right?" Or, "This is just between us, don't breathe a word." It might seem harmless, but it's the beginning of a chain where your loyalty or your fear of spoiling relationships is used to cover up impropriety. Stoics taught us to live in harmony with nature, and nature is about truth, about openness. Accumulating secrets, especially those that can cause harm, corrupts your own virtue. If you're offered a part in a secret that benefits only one person and could harm others, it's a sure sign that you're dealing with a liar or manipulator. They're not asking for friendship, they're asking for complicity in their deception. Honest dealings always withstand the light of day, and secrets are only needed to hide something shameful or dangerous. Be wary when you're invited to join an exclusive club of those who know the secret truth. This is a particularly cunning ploy because it appeals to a sense of exclusivity and importance. You're offered to be part of something special that others don't know. This flatters your ego, but simultaneously places the burden of complicity on you.
Stoics urges towards integrity. Our words and actions should align, and we shouldn't participate in deception, even passively. If a secret can't stand the light of day, it's likely not worth keeping. Your reputation and your conscience are more valuable than any ephemeral privileges gained from participating in someone else's shady dealings. Remember, hiding the truth is a form of lying, and when you're asked to be complicit in such concealment, it means you're faced with a choice between your honesty and someone else's deceit. By refusing to keep such secrets, you strengthen your character and your independence from external manipulation.
The fourth question often comes from those you can't trust. What if you were in my shoes? Or, would you have done things differently? This is an attempt to evoke empathy to such an extent that you stop thinking critically. It shifts the focus from the person's actions to your potential actions. The liar tries to justify their behavior by putting you in a hypothetical situation, hoping you'll understand their forced decisions. Let's say someone failed to keep a promise, and instead of explaining, they say, "Well, what did you expect? If you were in my shoes, could you have done it?" A Stoic remembers, everyone is responsible for their own actions, regardless of circumstances. You can't justify deception or dishonesty by citing difficult conditions or misunderstanding. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Even if the whole world acts wrongly, that doesn't give you the right to do the same." This question is an attempt to blur the lines of responsibility, to make you sympathize so much that you ignore the facts. Let's use an example. Someone borrowed a large sum of money from you, promised to return it, but didn't. Then, instead of apologizing and explaining, they start playing the victim. "You can't even imagine what I've been through. If you were in my shoes, you'd understand I had no choice." Of course, life can be tough, but that doesn't negate responsibility for one's words and actions. A Stoic understands that empathy is an important quality, but it shouldn't prevent you from seeing the truth and making rational decisions. Don't let emotions cloud your logic. If someone tries to justify their lies or dishonesty by shifting the burden of understanding onto you, that's a very troubling sign. They're not looking for a solution, they're looking for an excuse. They don't want to admit their mistake. They want you to justify it. Sympathy for someone else's circumstances should not become an excuse for their unethical behavior. Your task is to see things as they are, not as the liar wants to present them. This tactic is often used to blur moral boundaries. The liar tries to convince you that their actions aren't a vice, but merely a necessary measure in difficult circumstances. They're essentially saying, "Put yourself in my place and you'll understand why I acted this way." But Stoics clearly distinguish between the internal and external. External circumstances can be challenging, but our internal choice, our principles, and our virtue always remain within our control. No circumstances force a person to lie or deceive. It's always a choice. So when you hear such a question, don't let it distract you from the main point. Were the actions ethical or not? Your capacity for empathy is a strength, but it must be guided by wisdom so it doesn't become a tool for others' manipulations. Distinguish between reasons and excuses. An honest person explains reasons. A liar seeks excuses. Be able to empathize, but don't justify what contradicts your principles.
And finally, the fifth troubling question, why are you asking so many questions? Or, don't you trust me? This is the final attempt to discourage you from digging deeper, to suppress your rationality. An honest person won't be afraid of questions. They'll be ready to answer, explain, and provide evidence. Someone who's lying sees any question as a threat. Remember the student caught cheating who, instead of admitting it, gets indignant. "Why are you always checking on me? Don't you trust me?" This is an unwillingness to be exposed. Stoics always advocated for rationality and critical thinking. Zeno of Citium said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
that we may listen the more and talk the less. And this applies not only to our speech, but also to how we perceive others. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to doubt when the facts don't add up. If someone gets irritated by your questions, that's not your problem, it's their problem. They're defending their lie. Consider this scenario. You're discussing deal specifics with a potential partner, and you have some perfectly logical questions about timelines or financial guarantees. If in response you hear, "Why are you being so nitpicky? I told you everything will be fine. Don't you trust me?" That's a clear indicator. An honest person understands that questions are part of the process, part of building trust. They'll be happy to clear up your doubts. A liar, on the other hand, will try to stifle your curiosity so you can't get to the truth. It's like trying to fill a hole with dirt instead of fixing it. A Stoic knows that reason is our primary tool for navigating the world. Using it isn't distrust, it's wisdom. Don't let anyone deprive you of this tool. A lack of transparency should always be a red flag. If someone avoids direct answers and tries to deflect you from the core issue, it's a sure sign they're not interested in an honest interaction. This kind of behavior is an attempt to violate your right to information. Liars don't want you to have the full picture because their advantage lies precisely in a lack of information. They want you to act based on their words, not on facts. Stoics teach us to seek truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Truth is the foundation of a virtuous life. If someone obstructs your pursuit of truth, they are not your ally, but a potential threat to your well-being and peace of mind. Your ability to think rationally is a gift, and you must protect it from those who try to suppress it. Your questions aren't attacks, they're tools for verification. And the stronger the resistance, the more reason for verification. Don't give up when someone tries to silence you or make you doubt your right to knowledge.
Beyond these 5 specific questions, there are other, less direct, but no less important signs of dishonesty that a Stoic would pay attention to. These don't always manifest as words, but appear in behavior and the overall atmosphere the person creates. 1. Inconsistency in stories and facts. Liars often get tangled in the details of their narrative. If the information they're telling you changes from one conversation to another, or if new, unexplained, or contradictory elements appear, it's cause for concern. Lying requires constant fabrication and adjustment in the liar's mind, while truth always remains consistent. Your memory records facts, while a liar constantly has to invent and adapt. A Stoic trains their mind to be alert to such discrepancies, even small contradictions. 2. Excessive detail, or conversely, a complete lack of detail. When someone is lying, they might try to overwhelm you with unnecessary, distracting particulars to make their story seem more plausible, though this can actually give away their unnaturalness. Or they might completely avoid specifics, speaking in general, vague terms. The sweet spot is a normal, sufficient description that fits the context. Too much or too little detail, both can indicate an attempt at deception. 3. Avoiding direct eye contact or, conversely, an overly intense, unnatural stare. Both of these patterns can be signs of discomfort, nervousness, or an attempt at manipulation. An honest person behaves naturally. Their gaze is calm and appropriate. Of course, this isn't a hard and fast rule, as people are different and some get nervous in social interactions, but combined with other signs, it can be a warning bell. Observe overall behavior, not just a single gesture. 4. A tendency to deflect or change the subject. If you ask a specific question that goes to the heart of the matter and the person starts talking about something completely different or tries to shift the conversation to a topic more comfortable for them, it often means they don't want to answer your question. This is a classic evasive maneuver to avoid an uncomfortable truth. It's like a magician waving their hands to distract you from their actual actions. 5. Excessive vows, assurances, and promises. I swear on my mother's grave, you have my word, I would never do that. And similar phrases used without genuine necessity can be an attempt to compensate for a lack of sincerity. True honesty doesn't require such excessive bolstering. The words of a person who always tells the truth already carry weight. Someone who swears too much often does so because they know their words alone don't inspire trust. 6. Rapid shifts in emotion or unnatural reactions. If a person quickly switches from one emotion to another, for example, from aggression to excessive friendliness, or their emotional reaction seems exaggerated or inappropriate for the situation, for example, extreme offense at an innocent question, this can be a signal. Liars have to play a role, and sometimes they overact. 7. Blame shifting and victim posture. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, a liar often tries to portray themselves as a victim of circumstances or someone else's machinations. It wasn't my fault, they set me up. I had no choice. Such phrases, especially if repeated, should raise your antenna. Stoics taught us to observe without judgment, meaning simply to register the facts rather than immediately drawing conclusions. When you notice these signs, you shouldn't immediately brand someone a liar. Your task is to note them and use them as grounds for more thorough verification of information and further observation. This is your internal compass, helping you navigate the world.
These 5 questions, my friend, and the behavioral patterns listed above, they're not just random phrases or mannerisms. They are patterns of behavior that indicate an attempt at deception, manipulation, or concealment of the truth. Stoicism teaches us to be observant, to detach from emotions, and to see the world as it is, without unnecessary embellishment. We cannot control the actions of other people, but we can control our reaction, our discernment. We can choose whom to trust and whom not to. Our task is to be like guardians at the gates of our consciousness, allowing only what is true and corresponds to reality to enter. It's important to remember that being a Stoic skeptic doesn't mean being a cynic. Skepticism, in the Stoic sense, isn't perpetual suspicion of everyone and everything. Rather, it's a methodological approach to knowledge. It means you don't accept anything at face value until you've verified it yourself, analyzed the facts, and seen the evidence. It means you always ask questions when something seems illogical or contradictory. This approach protects you from deception, from disappointment, and from unnecessary suffering. Life is full of trials, and one of them is recognizing those who are dishonest. If you pay close attention to these 5 questions, if you listen not only to the words, but also to how those words are spoken and how they are reacted to, you can save yourself from many troubles. Trust is a valuable resource, and it should be given to those who earn it, those who confirm their words with actions, those who are not afraid of your questions. Be like a Stoic, observant, rational, and always ready to question what doesn't align with reality. This is how you'll preserve your peace of mind, your honor, and avoid needless disappointment. After all, ultimately, we can only control ourselves and our reactions to the world. And that, my friend, is quite a lot. Remember that Stoicism isn't about detachment from the world. It's about how to be strong and steadfast in the face of dishonesty, how to protect your inner peace from external manipulations. These questions and signs are merely tools for your mind. Use them wisely, but without excessive suspicion. The goal isn't to find a liar in everyone, but to safeguard yourself from those who are genuinely dishonest. Have you ever noticed these questions or behavioral patterns in your own life? How did you react to them? Perhaps you recall a specific instance where these red flags helped you avoid being deceived, or conversely, when ignoring them led to trouble. Share your thoughts. It helps us all better understand how to apply Stoic principles in everyday life.